An Israeli soldier was killed and 16 others wounded by roadside bombs in the Samarian town of Jenin. The slain soldier was named as Captain Alon Saki, 22-year-old sniper, a commander in the Kfir Brigade from Hadera. The IDF had been carrying out an overnight raid in Jenin aimed at capturing members of a Hamas terror network in the city. According to an initial IDF probe, an armored personnel carrier was hit by a bomb planted under a road in Jenin during the operation. The soldiers inside the APC were slightly hurt by the blast, and as additional forces reached the scene and worked to evacuate the wounded soldiers, another bomb exploded, leading to the death of Captain Sagi and the injury of additional troops. Well, concluding the key Washington talks on the war in Gaza and potential war in Lebanon, Defense Minister Gallant declared that Israel's conflict is not with the citizens of Gaza or Lebanon or Iran, but specifically with Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Iranian regime.
We are committed to bringing the hostages home, with no exception. We are committed to defending our people. But let it be known that our war is not with the people of Gaza. Our war is not with the people of Lebanon. Our war is against Hamas, against Hezbollah, and their backers, the Iranian regime.
As Israel moves to phase 3 in the war in Gaza, Defense Minister Gallant vowed to keep humanitarian aid flowing. Gallant did acknowledge differences with the U.S. over issues related to the war and the provision of arms, but said that differences between Washington and Jerusalem are discussed and settled between friends in-house, and we remain united. Before leaving Washington, Gallant held a bipartisan gathering with Democratic and Republican members of Congress. Gallant made clear that while differences may arise between Jerusalem and Washington, they are settled within the family, and that Israel has many friends on both sides of the aisle. On the ground in Gaza, Hamas fired a projectile at a UNICEF aid convoy aiming to reunite children from northern Gaza with their families in the south. Despite continuous IDF efforts to facilitate humanitarian aid, Hamas is jeopardizing the safety of Gazan civilians. The IDF has released images of Fadi al-Wadiyah, a Palestinian Islamic Jihad rocket expert and Doctors Without Borders staffer, wearing the terror group's uniform following his death in the Gaza City drone strike. The IDF shared information on al-Wadiyah's significant role in missile development, contrasting his employer's denial of his involvement with terrorism. ILTV's editor-in-chief, Mayan Hoffman, has more.
The Israel Defense Forces released images Monday night of Fadi al-Wadiyah, a Palestinian Islamic Jihad rocket expert wearing the terror group's uniform. This followed Médecins Sans Frontières, or Doctors Without Borders, naming him as a staffer but denying his involvement with terrorism. Al-Wadiyah was killed in a drone strike in Gaza City earlier this week, while reportedly en route to the MSF clinic where he worked. MSF had expressed outrage, strongly condemned the killing, and even called it abhorrent. The organization said that killing a healthcare worker while on his way to provide vital medical care to wounded victims of the endless massacres across Gaza is beyond shocking. The IDF, however, asserted that al-Wadiyah, a key member of Islamic Jihad for over 15 years, was instrumental in missile development and held expertise in electronics and chemistry. Lieutenant Colonel Avichai Adrai, the IDF's Arabic language spokesman, supported these claims with images and noted al-Wadiyah's attempted travel to Iran in 2018 for further training. He wrote on X, "A physical therapist by day and a jihadist saboteur by night. The so-called Fadi Jihad Muhammad al-Wadiyah, who worked as a physical therapist for Doctors Without Borders, also worked as a prominent saboteur within the missile system of Islamic Jihad." Adrai added that in the same year that al-Wadiyah joined the medical organization, he tried to leave the Gaza Strip for Iran, accompanied by 2 other terrorists to engage in terrorism training there. The IDF representative concluded, no matter how much Doctors Without Borders tries to consider al-Wadiyah an innocent healer who saved lives, he is a dangerous saboteur who once again reminds us of the way terrorist organizations in the Gaza Strip exploit international relief organizations by describing them as a human shield.
And joining us now via Zoom is Simon Plasker from Honest Reporting. Simon, thanks so much for being with us. Tell me, how is the foreign media covering the killing of Fadi al-Wadiyah, a terrorist bomb maker, and now called a member of Doctors Without Borders? How is he being treated in the media?
Well, I think we see a clear line here going through a lot of the coverage that we've seen over the last several months or so. It's a case of Israel claims versus Hamas says. So when Israel claims that Fadi al-Wadiyah is a terrorist, the media don't believe it. And what's, I think, interesting in this particular case is, and you're showing on screen right now, the photograph that the IDF released very, very quickly after Doctors Without Borders denied all knowledge that their employee was actually an Islamic Jihad terrorist. And I think this is also not the first time that this sort of thing has happened. We've got terrorists embedded within the non-governmental organization community, within the civilian infrastructure in Gaza. And the media are having great difficulty coming to terms with this. Just in 2022, if you'll remember, we had Mohammed al-Halabi, who was convicted of diverting funds and materials to Hamas for terror purposes. And he was actually the head of World Vision when he was arrested in 2016. So this is not the first time that a major NGO has been involved in a situation like this.
So they have a day job and a night job. Well, we're now in day 265 of the war, the plight of some 120 Israeli hostages held dead or alive in Gaza, not given much daily attention except here in Israel. What is the current focus in terms of the war in Gaza? The humanitarian suffering of Gazan civilians?
Absolutely. I think over the last few weeks, we've seen more of these stories about how Gazans are literally starving. There have been false claims of an inevitable famine. This is despite the fact that the UN body responsible for collecting the data actually admitted that its stats were actually wrong. They were collecting them wrong. But the media is, of course, putting this out there, that Gazans are starving. Of course, we also see other examples, such as the Rafah crossing being closed. This is a result of the Egyptians closing it.
Simon, I want to get to one more thing before we run out of time. If and when Israel launches a war in Lebanon, is it already pretty clear that nobody's going to mention the fact that they've been firing rockets at us for the last 8 months, or most of the foreign media will kind of skip past that?
You're absolutely correct. Most of the focus has been on Gaza. Just in the last few days, we've seen stories. Benny Gantz and Gallant, our defense minister, actually said that we will put Lebanon back into the Stone Age. But he also said that we are doing everything we can to avoid a war. And that particular bit, the latter part, was missed out by most of the media, who are now starting to put out the portrayal that Israel is in fact the aggressor here, that we are the ones that are going to start a war, despite the fact we've had daily rocket attacks since October the 8th.
All right, I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there, Simon, but thanks so much for being with us, and I hope you'll come back and report on better coverage.
Hopefully.
Fearing potential war in Lebanon, Germany, Netherlands, Canada, and now the U.S. are warning their citizens to leave the country. The warnings come as Prime Minister Netanyahu and IDF Chief of Staff Halevi met officers and soldiers preparing for the potential war in Lebanon. The German government website issued an announcement saying that an all-out war could break out between Israel and Lebanon, and German citizens are urgently requested to leave Lebanon. The announcement noted that air traffic might be halted in such a situation, and it might not be possible to leave. The announcement came only days after reports that Hezbollah has been storing arms at Beirut airport, which could be targeted in a potential Israeli assault. Foreign diplomats were given a tour of the airport, but some were reportedly unconvinced that they were given full access. Prime Minister Netanyahu and IDF Chief Halevi visited the northern front, attending exercises in the Galilee. The exercises are part of a series being carried out by the IDF brigades to boost fitness and evaluate plans for a potential attack in Lebanon. The drills are part of 8 months of training that various IDF units deployed to the north have cycled through in preparation for the possible war with Hezbollah. Netanyahu visited members of the IDF's 55th Reserve Paratroopers Brigade, which participated in the exercise. He commented that the drill he viewed was very impressive in terms of capabilities, mobilization, and implementation. Attacks by Hezbollah into northern Israel have been ongoing since the start of the war in Gaza. The IDF released this video of the threats that civilians on our northern front face daily for more than 8 months. They've been firing UAVs, missiles, and rockets, sometimes with military targets, but often directly targeting Israeli homes and civilians. Well, the Taglit Birthright Israel program has hosted a colorful event to educate and inspire the next generation of Jewish leaders. Their visit comes with the war ongoing, and the more than 2,000 participants showed their solidarity with Israel. ILTV's Devo Klein has more.
Taglit Birthright Israel hosted a solidarity event where 2,000 young Jews from around the world, including Taglit Birthright Israel participants and Israeli soldiers, came together in an event that aimed to inspire pride in their Jewish identity and strengthen their connection to Israel. Participants from the USA, Canada, South America, and India gathered at Mini Israel among the miniatures of iconic Israeli landmarks, places they had visited recently, for a Birthright organized event focused on Jewish unity during times of war. The event included Birthright Tour participants, volunteers, those in Birthright Excel leadership programs, and the Birthright Onward internship and volunteering program. Gidi Mark, CEO of Birthright, explained that 15,000 young Jews are expected to visit Israel this summer during a challenging time of war and rising anti-Semitism. The event was designed to connect them deeply with the current Israeli experience and empower them to defend Israel with confidence when they return home. Elon Levy, former head of the public diplomacy apparatus, encouraged the attendees to stand strong against those who seek to silence them. Israeli-American physician Miriam Adelson also took to the stage to praise the brave participants and encourage them to continue standing up to anti-Semitism.
You are going to be our soldiers abroad. The fact that you during war came here shows me that we have great kids all over the world, Jewish kids with values that can stand up even if they stand up alone.
The event also included a tribute to 13 Birthright alumni who were killed on October 7th, and prayers for the abducted alums Avitar David and other hostages. There was a salute to the IDF soldiers, particularly female fighters, and recognition of heroic actions during the conflict. Israel's Eurovision representative Eden Golan also made an appearance performing her song Hurricane, to which the audience sang along with her. One of the participants, Michelle from Michigan, expressed how the event enhanced her pride, stating, "This event gave me strength to be proud of being Jewish, of being part of this people who are fighting here for their lives and their right to be here." This powerful gathering showcased the unity and resilience of the Jewish community and their commitment to supporting Israel.
Germany's citizenship law has been revised to require new citizens to affirm Israel's right to exist and several other values related to Israel and the Jewish people. The law goes into effect at the same time as a U.S. State Department release of a report that shows a worldwide spike in anti-Semitism. More on the situation from ILTV's Mayan Hoffman.
Germany's new citizenship law went into effect today and requires applicants to affirm Israel's right to exist. Chancellor Olaf Scholz's government made dual nationality and reducing the wait for citizenship to 5 years a critical campaign pledge when elected in 2021. Previously, Germany did not allow dual citizenship for first-generation migrants. The law tightens due to rising anti-Semitism, debates over Israel's conflict with Hamas, and far-right political gains. Interior Minister Nancy Faeser stressed in a statement on Tuesday that only those who share German values can obtain citizenship. The new law includes a citizenship test with questions on anti-Semitism, Israel's right to exist, and Jewish life in Germany. Additionally, the test covers gender equality, democracy, and Germany's responsibility toward Judaism. Anti-Semitic incidents in Germany surged 83% in 2023, according to Germany's official government commissioner for fighting anti-Semitism, Felix Klein, in an interview with the Financial Times. This has prompted the government to maintain zero tolerance. However, a crackdown on anti-Israel protests has sparked free speech debates, especially among young Muslims who feel increasingly oppressed. Relatedly, Minister Faeser has proposed that foreigners in Germany who stir up Islamist or anti-Semitic hatred face extradition.
Wer keinen deutschen Pass hat und hier terroristische Taten verherrlicht, der muss, wo immer möglich, ausgewiesen und abgeschoben werden. Wir gehen hart gegen islamistische und antisemitische Hasskriminalität im Netz vor. Dazu gehört eine konsequente Strafverfolgung durch das Bundeskriminalamt und die Landespolizeien.
Faeser said she believes the coalition parties will quickly discuss and pass this amendment to the law after the summer break.
The U.S. State Department has issued a new and shocking report on the spike in anti-Semitism. The war in Gaza has emboldened Jew hatred, and the politically charged presidential election campaign is only adding to the rhetoric and social media hype. Well, joining us now via Zoom is Special Emissary on Anti-Semitism and former Knesset member Michal Katler-Wunsch. Michal, this U.S. State Department report highlights the rise in anti-Semitism globally. How bad is it?
Well, look, what we've seen and the tsunami of anti-Semitism actually in the aftermath of the 7 massacre, and you mentioned some of the spaces, the online spaces, the university spaces, and the international institutions, actually, the tsunami of anti-Semitism in the aftermath of the worst massacre of Jews since the Holocaust has people in real shock around North America, many parts in Europe, and around the world. What we have to recognize is that the very same anti-Semitism that fueled the atrocities of the 10/7 massacre, the war crimes, the crimes against humanity, is the anti-Semitism that fuels the responses to the 10/7 massacre, of silence, me too, unless you're a Jew, of denial, even as those barbaric savages live-streamed the atrocities they perpetrated, of justification, rape as armed resistance, according to leading feminist legal scholars, and of course, of the attack of Jews on university campuses, on streets, in synagogues, in schools, in LA, in Montreal, in Berlin, in New York. And so we meet at really an existential moment that has to be said very clearly, that anti-Zionism, or the negation of Israel's very right to exist, is the new, mutated, mainstream strain that has been normalized and that we have seen erupt, attacking individual Jews around the world. And that is the strain of anti-Semitism that we must ensure to identify in order to combat this ever-mutating, shape-shifting virus.
Michal, the first presidential debate is due to be held tonight in the U.S., and his criticism of President Biden's Middle East policy, the presumptive Republican candidate Donald Trump basically says those voting for Biden must be anti-Semites and Jews who support him are insane. Is that kind of language helpful?
I want to be very clear. It matters not if anti-Semitism comes from what's known as the extreme right, the radical left, or the radical Islamist. Anti-Semitism has one definition. The International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition enables us, indeed demands, that we transcend real or perceived differences of politics, of religion, of denomination, of geography. What we have seen in this tsunami of anti-Semitism in response to the worst attack of Jews since the Holocaust demands that we stand united in committing to identify and combat it. And politicizing anti-Semitism always fuels anti-Semitism. Politicizing and enabling to only look to one direction in order to identify what has, as I said, one single definition, the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition, will fuel this strain of anti-Semitism. And, you know, in the name of progress, those that cannot deny the 10/7 massacre, there was nothing progressive about that. And we have to be very, very clear that we are combating anti-Semitism comprehensively across the political divides that may or may not exist. And I very much hope, actually, that both of those debating this evening will put anti-Semitism on their slate as the understanding that anti-Semitism actually presents a national security threat.
Well, we'll see if they even discuss it during the debate. Maybe it'll be that important of an issue. Michal, thank you so much for being with us, and we'll keep following developments.
Thank you very much for having me on.
And now, if you're not a new subscriber, you may remember the Hebrew word of the day, where each week, along with eTeacher, we learn a new Hebrew word and relate it to the Bible, current affairs, and our everyday lives. For more information on the Rosen School of Hebrew, please scan the QR code on your screen or click the link in the description.
Welcome to Hebrew Word of the Week. I'm Mariella, and in this segment, together with eTeacher, we explore the beauty and depth of the Hebrew language. We'll learn a new Hebrew word or phrase and see how it's used in the Bible, current events, and everyday life. Today's Hebrew word is zikaron. It means memory in Hebrew. Zikaron holds profound significance as it represents the act of remembering, commemorating, and preserving important events and people. It is often used to honor the past and ensure that memories remain alive and impactful. The word zikaron has deep roots in Hebrew texts and culture. It is prominently featured in the Bible, emphasizing the importance of memory and understanding our history and identity. In Hebrew scripture, zikaron signifies a lasting legacy and the transmission of heritage through recollection. In contemporary Hebrew, zikaron remains integral, referring to personal and collective remembrance. It serves as a tribute to those who came before us and a reminder of the lessons learned from our shared history. Here are some examples of how the word zikaron is used in a sentence. Hazikaron sheli metzuyan, meaning my memory is great, or Yom HaZikaron, which is the day of remembrance. So if you're interested in learning more about the Hebrew language, check out eTeacher. This online and live course is the most established Hebrew language instruction institution. You can learn with a time-proven method for every level or start from scratch. eTeacher offers dynamic online courses with live video lessons, weekly webinars, and ample support, and allows you to connect to a lively global community for an enriched learning experience. Scan the QR code or click the link below and visit the eTeacher website today to learn more. I hope you enjoyed learning about the Hebrew word zikaron. Please join us next week for another episode of Hebrew Word of the Week. In the meantime, I encourage you to practice using the word zikaron in your own life, and feel free to share your experiences with us in the comments below.
And now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Mostly clear skies are expected tonight around the country, with temperatures reaching lows of around 23 degrees Celsius or 74 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow, sunny skies and warm temperatures are expected, as we should be seeing high humidity over the weekend, and temperatures at highs of 35 degrees Celsius or 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, that's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all of your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channels, subscribe to our newsletter, and visit our website at iltv.tv to stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I am Steve Leibowitz. Let's win the war and bring them home.